You make it what's going to happen to us.
I'm still very, very nervous. And here's why. I watched the Lakers last night, man. And in a span of minutes, Anthony Davis comes out of the game because he hurts his toe.
Oh, God.
And LeBron James, he twisted his ankle just a little bit, coming down off of a spin move and coming down on somebody's foot. Only thing I'm concerned about with the Lakers in the Western Conference is their durability. If they're healthy, they're coming out of the West, and I believe they'll meet Brooklyn in the finals. If they're not healthy, if their health is compromised, they're going to go down. It's just that simple. I'm not worried about their game, Keith. I'm worried about their durability. Every little thing seems to hurt them this year, and that's the crazy part of what I'm witnessing. But I also noticed Denver had a chance to get some of the Lakers in the first round. They wanted no parts of it. The Clippers were losing games on purpose as far as I was concerned, so they didn't have to face the Lakers early. So clearly we all know what the Lakers are and what they can be when healthy. And I think that right now that's the only issue. If you're telling me that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to be healthy, I'm telling you the Lakers are coming out of the West.
Stephen A., that was my next question to you, brother, because I get this strategy. I see it, but that don't mean I have to like it because it makes me look at the Clippers in a completely different way. Damn, you dropped games to OKC and the Rockets? That's the games you dropped?
We on the same page, bro. We on the same page. It's like, really? It's like that? You want to avoid the Lakers? You know what? There's a difference between being a championship contender and being the Clippers. And they reminded us they're the Clippers. They reminded us they're the Clippers. Because what the hell are you doing? I mean, don't get me wrong. I prefer to see the Lakers and the Clippers in the conference finals rather than the first round. Don't get me wrong. But if you're the Clippers, why are you appearing like you running from anybody? I mean, don't you have Kawhi Leonard? Mm-hmm. Don't you have Paul George? Did you just pick up Rondo? I mean, don't you got a crew? Why
got a new head coach. Like you got Ty Lue now. You got your coach. So you want it.
I'm just saying. You look again. I didn't talk to anybody yet in regards to what they were doing, but I'm just saying how it looked. You know, I was on vacation, but I'm just looking like, yo, really? Mm-hmm. Y'all don't look like y'all want to win these games. Mm-hmm. Y'all looking like y'all trying to avoid the Lakers. And then you get back in the States, and then I got back in the States, and everybody talk about how they looking like they avoiding the Lakers. I'm like, oh, really? That's what champions do? Okay.
That says a lot.
The champions is into the Clippers.
But how about also in the East? Saturday night, the Bucks could have done the same thing. The Bucks could have laid down and said, we don't want to face the Heat, not in the first round. We saw what they did to us last year. That team's coming on. They're tough. But they went out and they went and won that game and made sure. All right, and they knew what was going to happen if they won that game, and they locked it up where they would play the Heat in the first round. It's what they want. I was talking to one of their broadcasters during that game, and I said, what are you guys doing? Do you really want to play the Heat? And he said to me, I don't know. I guess they do, because he was surprised too. But they did not duck the Heat. They're going to see them.
I got mad respect for them for that. They didn't have Drew Holiday last year. They didn't have P.J. Tucker last year. And when you have the combination of those two, you've clearly elevated yourself defensively. Offensively, Drew Holiday can ball. You still have Middleton. You still got Giannis, the Greek freak. Okay, so your mentality is, with everybody talking about Brooklyn and Philadelphia and all of that stuff, they must have forgot. Our first order of business is these brothers that bounced us out at 5 last year. It's a different day. Let's get it on. That's the mentality they seem to have. That's how they play. Now they got to back it up and show up, because there's an immense amount of pressure on them, considering the fact that they retained the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you got Holiday in the offseason. You messed up the Bogdanovich deal because you opened your mouth and revealed it before it was finalized, so you compromised yourself. But nevertheless, you still got P.J. Tucker, and I love P.J. Tucker because he's going to hit corner threes, and more importantly, he's going to defend and bring a Rough Riders mentality on the defensive end of the floor to your game. So you take all of those things into consideration. They've got size, they've got athleticism, they've got physicality, they've got defensive prowess. They clearly have great coaching and Budenholzer. There's really no excuse for the Milwaukee Bucks. And what I like about them is that they seem to know it just as well as anybody else. And I respect that from championship contenders. That's how you're supposed to play. That's how you're supposed to act. You still got to back it up, but they did what they were supposed to do thus far.
Stephen A., I've mentioned this earlier in the show. Going into the final day of the NBA season, 17 of the last of the 20 seeds were not decided yet, and you've got a play-in situation where you got a team like the Wizards who are on the rise, and they were able to get into the play-in based on the ability to have that play-in, and also that they got healthy and they have 2 stars. You have the Warriors and you have the Lakers in this play-in as well. You've got star power this week in all these games. Is this for the NBA mission accomplished? Was this a success for the NBA despite some of the criticisms of the 7-10 idea?
Can't deny it. I certainly was a skeptic of it. Not anymore. Not when you see what you've seen over the last few days. Not when you see that, the 7 and 8 seed play against one another. The winner of that gets the 7th seed. The loser of that ends up playing the winner of the 9-10 seed. So it makes it very, very interesting. And the fact that the first time this has happened, you got Steph going up against LeBron is a huge, huge, huge deal. And then you got Russell Westbrook, who's been absolutely sensational over the last few weeks. There's no denying that. You take all of those things into consideration. I got to give credit where credit is due. And I think that the NBA hit the jackpot with this. And I think this is in all likelihood where it's going to stay. I don't think the play-in game is going anywhere, considering the success that it's reaped this season.
Who's your MVP, S.A.? You saw the way the game closed out last night for Stephen Curry. Is it him, Jokic, Embiid? Who you got?
I got to go with Jokic. I hate to say it because I think that Steph is the greatest shooter I've ever seen in my life, the greatest shooter God ever created, and he's been absolutely sensational and propelling them to 39-33 record. You just can't say enough of what he's working with. But here's the thing for me, guys. Jokic has not only been putting up numbers. Denver not only has consistently been a top 4 seed all season long with and without Jamal Murray. Let's also keep in mind that Jokic has not missed a game. This guy shows up every night. And when you talk about the MVP, sometimes the best ability is availability. And when you see guys taking games off, engaging in load management, monitoring themselves and doing all of this stuff, calling it preventative treatment and all of this other stuff. This is not a guy that did that. Not only did he put up the numbers that he put up, he was a model of consistency, dependability, and reliability. When you talk about a league MVP, we can't dismiss that in this day and age, particularly when you play in a league and you're surrounded by individuals who've made it perfectly okay to take days off, weeks off, sometimes even months off. When you look at it and only let me start it with practice. So when you look at it from that perspective, and the fact that this guy, day in, day out, has been there for you, and your team has been a model of consistency because he has been a model of consistency. There are things that come into play rather than just sheer numbers. And I think that's what we have to look at Jokic when we think about that.
Can you put names to this? Because I've heard a lot about guys that are taking time off, months off. Who are these guys?
Well, I wouldn't say months. I didn't mean to say months. I apologize for that. But I mean, the Kyries, the Kawhi Leonards, and others. Yeah, I'm naming names. It's not a problem for me. We know the difference between injured and hurt. We also know, guys that have had a penchant or a propensity to take time off because they want to make sure they're going to be ready, even though they're perfectly healthy. When you got the paying customer coming out there, not that this year was that case because of COVID, but for the most part, in general, just speaking generically, when you have people spending their hard-earned money to come to see you play, and you don't prioritize showing up during the regular season on a day-in, day-out basis, I think that is something that should count against you. And I think that is something that we as pundits, as commentators and stuff, should comment on. Because guess what? The regular season does matter unless you're letting people watch you for free. It matters. And when you prioritize showing up and showing up to work, that makes a difference. I will remind you, the great ones, the LeBrons, the Kobes, the MJs, and others, when we talk about them, we didn't just talk about them because of their heroics on the court. We also talked about the fact that they embraced being the marquee. There's something to be said about that. And I'm always going to hold people's feet to the fire for that. You have to pay attention to that. That has to matter. It can't be everything. It can't be the number one thing, but it has to come into the equation. It has to factor in. It has to matter. It certainly matters to me.
I completely agree, and it's something that Vanessa Bryant did talk about with Kobe during his Hall of Fame enshrinement over the weekend. Stephen A., always great to chat with you about hoops. We're going to enjoy it this week for sure.
All right, S.A.
All right, guys. Take care.
That's Stephen A. Smith on the Goodyear Hotline. So Market Madness continues again coming up next. So where's Steph?